And now let's roll right into our first panel. Generation C isn't defined by birth year. It refers to an emerging digital lifestyle in which consumers who are demanding to be heard and engaged are reshaping how content is produced and distributed. As audiences engage in multiple screens, sometimes simultaneously, they're becoming part of the story itself. This entertainment trend is changing the very nature of content, how it's being produced, and how it's being delivered. Our first panel today, moderated by Mary Maddever, VP of Brunico Communications, includes a broad range of experts who work in production, social media, and new technology, and who are all focused on building communities and engaging conversation around their products. We'll be leaving some time for Q&A at the end. We've got volunteers with microphones around the room. As we noted already, please wait till they arrive at you before you answer your question. It may get picked up on video and you'll be posted on YouTube. So, Mary, over to you in panel number one.
Oh, thank you very much. Last time I was on the stage talking about social media, it was in Cannes for the Festival of Creativity, and it was with George St. Pierre. I had a list of approved questions and I stuck to them. This is going to be a little bit more freewheeling. So, as we heard this morning, we live in a world of continuous partial attention, and as we've heard from Wattpad and then Skywriter, everybody is putting content out there. So the big challenge for this industry is, how do you build a community? How do you connect with this audience? I also heard a great term, we're all leaking focus. So they know about the shows, they know about the personalities, they don't, as we saw from the stats this morning, look for the channels quite as much. So there's some challenges there. So how we wanted to kick this off is we're going to share learning across this great panel. And I'm going to introduce folks and ask them all to share a little anecdote of being a connected consumer. Because it's hard enough just to be a connected consumer, let alone have to be the one reaching out to them. I personally have, for strategy and playback, started up Instagram, and we have Facebook and Twitter, and I have my own Facebook and Twitter. And when we were experimenting with Instagram, I found this connect to social media feature, not remembering that we'll connect to whichever account you happen to be in. And then I was very surprised one day when creative directors from the ad industry started commenting to me how cute Lucy was. Lucy is the name of one of our producers, so I was a little confused at first, and then I remembered it's my dog. I posted pictures of my dog to the strategy audience. So there's a lot to figure out here, and hopefully this panel will help us with all of that. And I'm going to start off by introducing our first panelist, Chris Geddes, rhymes with lettuce, VP of Global Sales, Mobo Vivo. He has a production background, also branded entertainment expertise, seems to know all the deals going on around the world. It's a very growing company. They help, if you don't know, distribute TV and film, and they have a staying tuned platform which helps producers and networks gamify their content. And Chris is heading up global expansion to exciting places like LA and Sao Paulo. So would you kick things off?
Yeah, just a personal comment on the connected consumer. I guess going back, I had the privilege of working with my brother in the first sort of reality show iterations. We went across the country and found singers and created a band. And I did a deal with Rogers at the time, 2001. And the big thing was text messaging had just hit. And we knew our audience was definitely going to be text enabled, and so we decided, let's do this. Let's throw over the whole finale to the voting audience, and obviously we had judges to sort of filter it to that point. But when we got to our final 10, we did a live show and threw it over. And this is sort of pre-idol, so we were out in the wild with it. So the connected consumers did respond, and they voted. For a lovely young gal from Newfoundland. It turns out the whole province voted for her, it turns out. And unfortunately, she probably wasn't, she's probably the number 9th singer, best singer that we wanted to make an album with. So I think that learning, filters in place when we throw it over into the wild and let people interact with their content. Writers and directors are still craftspeople. They should be driving the storylines. When you throw it over to the public, we have a lot more stop checks in there to make sure you get what you want. But that was my first encounter with it.
Thanks. Next up is Maria Hale, who's VP Television and Head of Digital and Content Distribution at Chorus. She's in charge of making Chorus digital facing. Big challenge. Recently developed a lot of cross-platform content for Game TV, which sounds like fun. Formerly VP of Content at TELUS, and in the earlier days, VP of Content Biz at Chum, and VP of City TV, which is now what?
City.
City, yeah, okay.
Well, my connected consumer, I'm going to be contrary, so it's more of a disconnected consumer experience. Having signed up for the various, I have my Facebook page, I've got my LinkedIn page, and I set up my rules. So on Facebook, it's really close friends, and on LinkedIn, it's anybody. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, odds are I will accept that connection. But as a result, I don't go there very often, so it becomes what I call my untended garden. So occasionally I'll get, serious business propositions in LinkedIn that I don't respond to for 4 months or 6 months. So it's a bit risky, and all of this stuff requires a lot of work and attention. So if you do want to reach out to me with a business proposition, go to my business email address, which is pretty straightforward.
I think we all have those untended gardens. Next up is Chris Harris. He's the head of social media for Shaw, and he's responsible for the likes of Global, HGTV, Showcase, History, Slice, I'm getting tired already, and my personal favorite, Food Network.
Yes.
And before that, you headed up Shaw's online content team, and you were at CBC in various positions, including sports, news, and kids. So what's your story?
I'll tell something from a couple of weeks ago. What I love about the connectedness now is our fans and the direct line that our fans have to the creators of the show, and then them becoming creators themselves. I was coming back from a ski trip a couple of weeks ago, and I got a note. It was the day that Lost Girl launched its new season a couple Sundays ago, and we have a super fan called Faynonymous, and he has a direct line into our production executives, to the talent, to us, and we have fairly regular conversations, and sent a little note saying excited about the premiere tonight. And I wrote him back and said, that's great, have a good time, we're really excited as well. And he said, I hope you're watching our pre-show. What's your pre-show? So him and a whole bunch of the fans from the community got together, real world, streamed the event of pre-show. We had a pre-show on Showcase, but they were doing their pre-show, putting it out to the world, had their own hashtag, getting fans involved from around the world. And I just love that they've got this direct line into us, into the whole sort of production of the show, the broadcaster, and then this sort of super fan network. And they're not afraid to become creators as well. So it's a really neat way to connect the fans with the show.
Great. He's helping you with your job. We love that.
It does.
Our next up is Janice Steiner, who's a founding partner, COO of Horizon Studios. She's a creative director, so her background is, working with brands in a more traditional sense, but now she's working in social and emerging media. It's a social marketing tech company, and you're an advisor for Mars as well, and has worked for brands like Motorola and LinkedIn and PlayStation, so certainly knows this space. What's your story, Jan?
So my story is, I was very fortunate. I got involved with Facebook in early 2006. I was part of an interpublic agency, Siegel, and we put the first companies in the space. So it was, just to put in perspective, 40 staff, 40 staff at Facebook and 200,000 Canadians in the space. So we put PlayStation in first, and I remember the moment for me when we put it up, we put new technology up, it was the first page, and all of a sudden the customer talked to me. Talked to me as a marketer, and that changed everything. At that moment, all of a sudden, I had the first moment of a consumer talking to me on Facebook, and it changed everything as a marketer. It became the moment of, every time I build technology, that moment when I go live with the technology, that the consumer talks and talks back and talks as part of the conversation. And that's just sort of my consumer sort of personal moment. And I still remember, I still have the post that was made at that time.
And last but not least, Dave Brown. You're very close to the consumers as a strategic partner manager, film and TV with YouTube and Google, and you manage the partnerships there, film content, so you're always seeing how media and consumers connect. And before that, you were with RIM and TELUS and My Thumb, so very much in the mobile space. What insights can you share?
Yeah, so my personal story of connected consumer is a self-referencing story. I was lying in bed, and don't worry, it doesn't get overly personal after that, but lying in bed and had heard about this Aaron Sorkin show, The Newsroom, that was coming on, and thought I'd check it out right before bed, so I go on my mobile device, and the premiere was launched for free on YouTube, so I was watching it on YouTube on my mobile device and thought, I'll watch 5 minutes so I'm not excluded in the water cooler talk at work tomorrow with work-related anecdotes. And ended up watching the whole thing with the lights off on my mobile device for 45 minutes. And then coming back from the cottage on Sunday, thought, I don't want to miss episode 2. So I ordered HBO on my phone in the car on the way back from the cottage so that I could see episode 2 and subsequent episodes. So I think that speaks both to what a marketer's dream and how impressionable I am as a consumer, but also the prevalence of connecting to content through various devices and various media.
So now we're going to start talking from a more corporate side and what companies and brands are doing. And I think, Maria, we're going to kick off with you. If you could let us know about your network's response to this evolution of audience from one screen to multi-screen.
Well, that was the best throw I've ever had with the HBO example. So it's really, as Chorus, we represent Movie Central, and HBO is one of our brands in Canada. And it's really about utilizing each platform in its best way. So the example there of having the video or the premiere episode available to the broadest audience possible, which then works as a promotional tool for the network overall. And you were, the textbook example of how it can really work seamlessly together, and we didn't script that, I swear. So you put it out to the broadest audience, you drive subscription to the vehicle that you want, is really helpful. Last night on OWN Canada, for probably a large portion of you, Lance Armstrong came forward with a major revelation and a large interview. And OWN is a very small digital specialty channel. So in addition to having it available to subscribers, we also, on the best screen available in the home, I might add, we also made it available off the website. So as a promotional tool to drive subscription, and during the interview also be able to promote all the great shows on our services. So these things can work very well together. My focus at Chorus is really about how do we utilize all of these screens. I think Con mentioned off the top, the gap. People aren't buying as many DVDs anymore. Where is that audience going? And there is a gap currently. And we as broadcasters now are really coming up behind to say, geez, the audience is moving towards this carousel viewing, this binge viewing of content in order to keep up with season 3 of Downton Abbey. The producers made seasons 1 and 2 available, and what happened? 8 million people tuned into the first episode of Downton Abbey. And it's really because the early adopters were there first, created all the water cooler buzz about the show, and then all the rest of us could catch up with these first seasons, which in times gone past we had to spend $50 for a DVD box set and go out of our way to acquire the content. It's getting a lot more easy. It's getting easier, but there's still a lot of work in the back end. So there's no shortage of work required to secure these rights and then distribute this content across platform. And I'll just say one more thing when we're looking at Chorus. We also have a studio, so owning IP is really critical, and how we monetize that across all the platforms become easier when we own the rights across the various screens.